So from a classical standpoint, if we have like a C major chord, there are three different ways to play this that people care about. Three different ways to play this, and they are called root position, first inversion, that's a 1, first inversion, and you might have guessed it by now, but second inversion. Okay, so what these mean is simply this. If you're in root position, the root, this is the root of the triad is on the bottom. Okay, so this is like with C is on the bottom, and then E, and then G. Okay, so if we have our grand staff like this, I'll make a few different root position triads. Check this out. We have C on the bottom, we have E, and then we have G. This is totally root position. We have C, E, and G, and the root is on the bottom. C is the root of this chord. Okay. Next up, let's see one more. If we put the C here, and we put the G here, and we put the E here, this is still root position because we have C, E, and G, and the root is on the bottom. Okay? So these are all root position. And if you even did this, if you span all the way across, maybe you have a really low C down here, and you put your G here, and who knows what else. Let's put a bunch of C, E, and G, C, E, and G, C, E, G, C, E, G, everything we can. We can even put these down here. All of them. If you make this whole thing, it doesn't really matter. As long as the C is on the bottom, this is a C, and it's the root, it's root position. Okay? So first inversion works like this. Instead of having the root, we have the third on the bottom, the third. Now, I know that this is, you might say, oh, this is 1, 2, 3, but it's really 1, 3, 5. And the reason is you can imagine we have D and F in the middle here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have the root, the third, and this will be the fifth. Let's do this in yellow, or in green, because we're matching colors. Okay, so this will be our fifth. Okay, so you probably see where this is going. First inversion simply means that we have E as the lowest note if we're in a C chord. Okay, so we put E as the lowest note. Maybe we can use that E, or we can just double the E, whatever. And we put C and G. As long as we have all the pieces, and you know, we got like E, 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 G, C, and G, all this stuff. Okay, so E is the lowest note. We have C, E, and G total, so this is C major with E on the bottom, and therefore it's C major first inversion. Okay. Same thing here. Second inversion simply says we put G on the bottom. Maybe we can use this G just for fun. Or let's do G, 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 G. Okay, a lot of G, and then we simply have C and E on the top just for fun. Or we could throw an E here. It doesn't really matter as long as our bottom note here is G. Okay. This is our G in this chord. It's our fifth. Therefore, it's C major. C major. You could write all this out if you wanted. C major second inversion. Okay, so inversion, root position, and the first and second inversion only tell you what is on the bottom. What is the bottom note? But it doesn't really tell you which one, right? So like if you had C on the bottom, you could play this C as long as everything else is above it, or you could play this C as long as everything else is above it, or you could play this C, or you could even play this C. This is actually C major root position. Okay, so you could play that C as your bottom note. Or you could play this one if you had other stuff, or this one if you had other stuff, that kind of thing, okay? So all it tells you is what is on, or what is the bottom note, okay? What note is on the bottom. Okay, so there's other ways to write this instead of writing all of this, C major second inversion. Of course, because it's music, there is shorthand. We know that right now we don't have to write C major as long as we use an uppercase C, so we could technically write C second inversion, which is shorter, or you could even go inv like that for second inversion. But there's actually a shorter way, and it goes like this. Let's use treble clef only, just for kicks, okay? We're still going to stick with our C major to keep everything simple. Now, in a closed position, and even though that this is not necessarily, or this is not really closed position, or this isn't in closed position, but this is, it all comes from closed position. So bear with me here. If we look at here, we have from here to here, we have 1, 2 is in the space, and 3 is in that, on that line, so we have a 3. And then from the bottom note to this note, we have 5. This is how they count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? So from here to here, we have 5. So what you can write is simply this. For C root position, you can write C 5, 3, like that. C 5, 3. And that simply means that above the bottom note, there is a third, and above the bottom note, there's a fifth. And all the notes fit in there somehow like that, and the only way that it'll work is like this. Okay? So this also just means that another way to read this is simply C major with C on the bottom. Okay? In pop notation, they simply do this, C over C. But you don't really need to do this, so they just write C. Okay? We'll see how this comes up eventually with this stuff. Okay? So watch this. We have our next one. Maybe we have E, G, and C. Remember, we do it all from closed position, where everything is as close together as possible. Here we have 1, 2, 3, so this is a 3. And here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So from here to here is 6. Okay, this is still C major, but now we go like this. So it's C, 6, 3. Okay, and simply this means C major with E on the bottom, right? The third is on the bottom when it's in first inversion, okay? Another way to write this in pop notation, this is called pop notation, is simply like this. You go C over E. This means you play C major, and your bottom note is E. That's it. This isn't a chord quality, this is just a note. This is your chord, okay? So there are 3 different ways to write this, all meaning the same thing. This is classical, this is pop, and this is kind of just explanatory, not really a real way to write it. Okay, for second inversion, we simply do this, and if you want, you can pause the video right now and see if you can figure out what the numbers will be. But it will look like this, where we have G, C, and E. Again, this is the closed position, G, C, E. From here to here, we have a fourth, simply 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from here to here, we have a sixth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? So this is going to be 6, 4, so we write C, 6, 4, and this just means C with G on the bottom. Maybe do this. And another way to write this in pop notation is like this, simply C, I'm stuck with G right now, C over G, which means that you play C major over G, over the note G. Okay, there's actually a couple simpler ways to write this. Now that we know all that, we can get down here. Instead of writing all this, because, you know, shorthand is not short enough, so we want shorthand, you can write just C. If you have just C, it automatically means, hey, this is in root position. Okay, so you don't have to write 5, 3 if you don't want to. You can just write C. Okay, for here, because thirds and fifths are everywhere, 5 is so common. What you can write for this one is simply C6. C6. Okay? And this means the same thing. Now, it just, as all of this, they all mean the same thing. This is just the shortest way to write it. And this one finally is C6, 4. There's no shorter way. I think I've seen C4, but that's really weird. It looks really weird to me, or even if you put the 4 up here. That's just really strange. I would stick with this if I were you, but do whatever you want as long as you can communicate effectively to yourself or to whomever you're working with. These are the ways to do it, the safe ways to do it anyway. Okay, so again, this is root position, this is first inversion, inv for inversion, and second inversion. And again, one more time, or inv, let's just stop there. One more time, this simply means C major with E on the bottom, or with C on the bottom. This is C major with E on the bottom, and this is C major with G on the bottom.